Okay. Hey guys, good morning. It's Lindsay here with the Thriving Holistic Practitioner. I'm a business consultant and I help businesses thrive. And really, my heart mission is to help business owners experience peace and confidence in their business. One of the topics that I want to talk about today has to do with hiring a virtual assistant. This has actually come up for, it just seems like in this last week, it's been brought up a couple of times where I've heard from a business owner, once on Facebook, once with one of my clients, who said the idea of hiring a virtual assistant feels not fun. I don't know, overwhelming, frustrating. They feel stuck because on one hand, they know they need help, but they've had bad experiences in the past. And here's what I hear. Here's some of the experiences that I hear. If you're a virtual assistant, I recommend you pay attention to this because this can actually help you get more clients if you understand what business owners are thinking or experiencing. So sometimes with agencies, they get frustrated because they get handed a virtual assistant. This is what the lady on Facebook said. She said, I was given a virtual assistant and everything was fantastic for the first month or so. But after a while, the person started turning in halfway done work, not meeting deadlines. I felt frustrated. And when I reported them to their supervisor, I was gaslighted and told it was my fault that I wasn't communicating clearly. And she said, obviously, I had been communicating clearly because things were done correctly in the beginning, right? So she was just overwhelmed with that whole process to begin with. The second person said something similar. I don't know for sure if she went through an agency, but she said something similar with the fact that she said, I just feel like by the time I tell them what needs to be done, I could have just done it myself. And if I'm not explicitly clear with exactly what I want, then it doesn't get done well. And it just feels like in a lot of cases, virtual assistants may not think for themselves. Okay. That I'm sure virtual assistants are smart people. That's not to say that they're not. But what they're doing is they're essentially doing the bare minimum that they're asked to do. So that means if they see something that could be done better, that means if they are given a task and they could go the extra mile, they don't. They'll just do the bare minimum. And a lot of times, what happens, and this is a communication gap, the business owner didn't clearly communicate their expectations because they were unaware of this piece. They might have assumed certain things to be done. I've been guilty of that too. So I want to share today how I was able to find amazing virtual assistants, people that I still work with to this day, and my process for doing that to help you if you're looking to find a virtual assistant. Okay. So first thing I did was I had the same experiences. I was frustrated and I was actually building my digital agency side of it, my podcast agency. And I was feeling very overwhelmed because I needed people and I needed them quickly. But I was afraid. I was afraid of hiring virtual assistants. I was afraid of working with people out of the country. I was afraid of working with an agency because their prices were higher. The whole thing was overwhelming. I'm telling you, I could feel the same way that you're feeling. I've felt that way. I was very fortunate to have a good friend at the time who was working on becoming a virtual assistant herself, and she had been networking with other virtual assistants, and she loved networking, and she offered to help me do that piece of it to flush out these people. So we put together a process. And this actually ended up being a process that I stuck with in my business because it worked so well. Now, I will give you this caveat. It is time consuming, but you know what? It's the same thing. If you were hiring an employee, you would go through this almost exact process. And here is what we did. So first of all, we made a list of exactly what jobs we needed. I decided that I was not going to work with an agency. And the reason I chose not to work with an agency is because I wanted to have control, I guess you could say. I wanted to have control over that person, over the expectations, over disciplining them, I guess is the best word. But even though it wasn't discipline, but like correcting their mistakes and having that one-on-one dialogue. And I wanted to be able to switch gears and find somebody else quickly. And I don't know, the benefit of an agency is that they claim they do all that for you, but I still see time and again that they have these inflated prices. Who knows how they're treating those people? And I wanted to be able to bless the people that I was working with, like giving them bonuses at Christmas time and different things like that. So I decided I was going to go on this mission to find individuals, not agencies, And the other key thing I was looking for is they had to be skilled in the one thing I wanted them to do. Now, this is really important because a lot of virtual assistants will give you this like dump truck of things that they can do. I can make social media posts. I can do emails. I can do blogs. I can do this. I can do that. I can manage your email. I can do anything you want me to do. Some people, there's about 2% who legitimately actually are good at all of that. The rest of them are not. And it is really important to find out two things. What are you really good at? And what do you enjoy doing? Because asking a virtual assistant to do something they don't love, you're immediately going to get their subpar work. Okay. So what we did is we put together a Google form, and it was essentially an application. Okay. And then we went into groups like Women Helping Women, Lit Uploaded Entrepreneur, some of these huge entrepreneurship groups. And we said, hey, we are looking for virtual assistants for these specific jobs. And we were looking for a Go High Level expert. We were looking for a graphics designer. We were looking for video editor. And we were very clear on our expectations. And then the process, this is the other part of this, my mind just got overwhelmed with that, like remembering back to what I was doing. So here's the deal. Number one, if they didn't follow our process, they were immediately out. So one of the things that drives me crazy is when we put posts like this and everybody DMs. I'm not talking to you if you can't follow my process, period. Done. Just ignored them. Second of all, if they were communicating, like if their message or their DM said, I'm sorry, where's the link to that? Something like that, we would help them. But you know how you get those spammy, I can help you. I can do this. I can do that. No. Then we would put them through the process. They had to fill it out. And in the Google Doc, in the forum, we were asking things like, where are you located? What are your rates? Give us examples of your work. What do you specialize in? What are your favorite things to do? What hours are you available? Just basic stuff that you would ask anybody in an interview. And then put a description of, please tell us a little bit about yourself type thing. That was step one. Step two was going through the interview process. So basically, we looked at these Google Docs. If they didn't follow the basic instructions, for example, if they gave us that truckload full of stuff that they can do, and they were not clearly defining what they were specializing in, they would be put to the bottom of the pile. I was very clear with people in my communication. And again, if they can't follow, this is a great test because you want somebody who can follow instructions. Okay. So by then we scheduled interviews, and then we met with these people on Zoom. My next way of filtering people out is if they don't show their face in a Zoom, I'm out. Now, maybe that's a little bit discriminatory because, some people live in an area that may be a third world country. Maybe they're not really proud of their environment. And I totally have a heart for that. And I get that. However, I need to know who I'm working with. And a lot of that comes down to this connection. I wanted to build a connection with the people I was working with. And I have to tell you, there were a few times I wavered on that decision, and I went forward with somebody who didn't show their face. Every time it turned out bad. So that is 100% my policy. If you don't show your face, and I don't ask them to show their face, they literally just either show it or they don't. And that moves them in the category like next interview or no more interviews. And then the next thing that I did is I would have somebody else interview them as well. Or I would do a second interview, or I would do a test job. I would say, okay, I'm going to give you this job. I want to see what your work performance is. How do we communicate? And then we would go from there. So you see how I was like funneling them down. Here's the cool thing. Now I was in business and I hired employees. I was in charge of hiring and managing teams. When you're working with W-2 employees, you don't get a trial period. You hire them or you don't. And your trial period means that you've onboarded them, they're signed up, you're paying taxes, the whole kit and caboodle. With a virtual assistant, you get the opportunity to say, hey, here's a small task. I want to see how you do with this small task. Now, show me that you can keep up and you can do this other things. Or how did it go? How do they take their feedback? So that's really important. And then now this is all just finding a good virtual assistant. I haven't even gotten into like how to set up systems to communicate with them, but I'm gonna wrap up with that so that you have the whole package here. Lastly, what I want to say though is this. When you go through this lengthier process in the beginning, it can feel annoying and you do have to like stop business for a while to get through it. But the people I ended up working with, I still work with to this day. And I trust them. And I know that when I give them something, they're going to get it done. There were some gems, people that I truly found were, as I call her, a Jill of all trade, because she legitimately will do anything that I ask her to do. And she does it well. And if she doesn't know what to do, she'll ask. That was so important to me because I was moving at like Mach speed. I didn't have time to make videos for every little thing, especially when it came to tech. I love technology and I love digging in, but I was at a point in my business where I needed somebody else to be digging in. I needed somebody else to be reaching out to the help desk. She was totally up for that. Woo, she was my favorite. Like she helped me with so much. Others that I found out where they're good at. Now, let me go back to my car business days, right? And I would interview people come in. My job was to hire for the BDC, which was a business development center, basically call center sales. Okay. Sometimes I would interview people and I would talk to them and I'd realize they are not a fit for my department. But that didn't mean they weren't a fit for something else. And I would introduce them to the parts manager or to the service manager or to the lot attendant manager, whatever the case was that I thought they would be a good fit for. I would do my best to keep a pulse on everywhere in the dealership on who's needing people. And if I found a good one, I would introduce them to the manager. And I'm going to tell you, so many people got a job and are staying because I took the time to see where they were a fit. Now, the same is true with a virtual assistant. You might hire them. Here's a great example of this. I've hired virtual assistants who told me they could do web design, but they're horrible at copy. And they don't want to admit that, or they don't know that because they want to focus on building websites. So what I would do is use them for what they're good at. And then I would factor into my plan somebody for copy. So don't count everybody out. If you have a good relationship, they communicate well with you, you like their personality, and on the surface, things are good, find a way to utilize them in the best way for you and for them. Okay, so moving forward, talking about communication, talking about staying organized. This is critical. If you don't have a system for this, things get lost. It's easy to assign a job and forget that you did that. So use something like Asana. Asana is great. It's super simple to use. It's also not very expensive. And it's not overly complicated like maybe ClickUp or Notion. They're very overly complicated. Unless you have a very complex business, stick with something like Asana that's very simple. You assign them a task. You can put in there a video. If you do want to show them a video or feedback, use either Zoom clips or Loom and just make a video library. This is the magic right here, guys. See, I noticed that in the beginning, I was constantly sent, there was this one task. I did this Pinterest management for a client. And I had one VA and I would send them a bunch of videos to do it. And then I ended up finding out they were not good at it. That's an example of somebody who was just not good at, he was okay with graphics, but it wasn't his like thing he loved to do. He was much more like a salesperson. He wanted to like get on Facebook and chat for you versus make graphics. Graphics was something he could do, but not something he was good at doing. And I just told him that. I said, look, I appreciate you, but this is clearly not your area of expertise. I need somebody who I don't have to keep, giving feedback 3 or 4 times for the same project. So when I switched it up, I had that library of videos and I was able to just send them the videos. When you build that library, that is so valuable because anytime you need to switch gears, the person doesn't work anymore or they're not communicating and you want to find somebody else. Or maybe your budget's bigger and you want to scale up and find somebody who has, a little bit better skill. You already have all the videos. You don't have to go through and do it all over again. So this is super powerful. I hope it was helpful. If so, please leave a comment, share with me your thoughts on that, and like and subscribe to my channel. All right, guys, until next time, bye for now.